This is where the big boys play, huh? We ain't here to play.
At the total combined weight. At the total combined weight of 589 pounds.
Please welcome, ladies and gentlemen, at well over 500 pounds, this is where the big boys play.
All right, welcome to the show, everybody. This is At a Combined Weight. I am your host, Charlie Dudley, sitting here with the ever so large Robert McElroy. How you doing?
I'm well, and we are wrestling's newest podcast. You always leave that shit out.
Oh, sorry, I forgot. Wrestling's newest podcast.
It's cool. No, you're always good to include it on our social media platforms, but I'll be damned. You leave it the hell out here.
As always, you can follow us on Twitter. It's At a Combined Weight, and that is our email address as well, atacombinedweight@gmail.com. So if you're listening somewhere and you're not following us on social media, come on, just follow us. We retweet cool shit, and Robert's nice and stuff, and I'm not very nice. I'm gonna just be honest.
Well, so if it's anything kind that has been tweeted about, it's from me. That's kind of
it's like sunshine, rainbows, and show ponies is what you. That's what you tweet.
See, well, I don't know, but I did tweet out that little article about Kevin Green that was on AL.com, how he's going to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I was like, that'll be a good touch for our little At a Combined Weight Twitter handle.
Oh yeah, it was good. It was good.
I just figured it's kind of apropos. He's been such a talked about guy on our show.
Yeah, he's been a mainstay in the early part of Nitro in the first couple episodes here. Today we're looking at July 1st, 1996. It is the go-home show for a show that will change the face of professional wrestling forever. And that's not your hyperbolic JBL propaganda that he spews on Monday night. This was the first step in an instance that would change the face of professional wrestling. I mean, we've talked about it ad nauseum. It's a huge angle. Huge angle. And while the NWO did get long in the tooth, it was something that, I mean, you still see the fallout from it today. We open the show. Zbyszko actually drops the New World Order moniker on us, and I don't think I noticed that as a kid. I guess, I mean, you don't remember that kind of shit, I don't guess, but he actually says there will be a New World Order in professional wrestling. Now, obviously, it is akin to the idea of a New World Order in, like, the government, like a big controlling entity, which Robert and I have had the privilege of, I guess people still believe in the idea of a New World Order, like politically, because when we tweet about it, the NWO or the New World Order, sometimes we get these rando followers or put us on a list of like politicos and shit. It's like, we're talking about wrestling, dude. We're not talking about politics.
It's so weird.
We're talking about Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, and Hulk Hogan, not like Muammar Gaddafi and fucking crazy people in the Middle East and shit. We're talking about wrestling.
No, they tried to shoot me a follow, your No Bozos follow, as well as At a Combined Weight, and all three of us ended up blocking whoever this was.
Yeah, oh yeah. They tried to put us on some list. I don't know how the whole list deal works on Twitter. Honestly, I don't want to know because I don't want to be involved in something that someone else controls that I'm a part of it, if that makes sense.
Right. No, we can't have all that.
Anyway, Zbyszko and Shivani pushed the third guy at the Bash of the Beach. Did you get the sense that they pushed the third man a little too much the entire show, or just enough?
I think, well, I can view this two ways. As a young viewer, 10 years old at the time, no. That would have not been overkill for me because I would have really wanted to know.
Right.
And I can't quite remember exactly, and I'm sure I really did at the time. As an adult viewer watching it retrospectively now, we know who the third guy is for days. Yes. But so what matters is that it was a live show, and at the time I think it was not overkill for me, and I don't think it was for a lot of people because it really was on our minds as we're watching the telecast. And you mentioned that Zbyszko throws out the New World Order bit. You know, it was almost like kind of interrupted by DDP.
Yes, it
Did
was.
you notice that? Yeah,
Yeah.
it was. He didn't fully get it. I'll go, wait, I almost rewound it. I didn't, but I was like, wait, this is the first time we've heard New World Order on a Nitro telecast, and it was kind of cut off a bit.
Yeah, I think he throws out the word new, and then DDP interrupts him. And I think what is interesting to me is the wrestling community as a whole, and I guess more of the WWE type community now, they belabor the point of how poorly run WCW was and how it was so shitty and they spent so much money and they were so poorly run that they went out of business, blah, 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 blah. But think about the little breadcrumbs and hints that are dropped on the way to this Angle's crescendo at Bash at the Beach. And the fact that you know that they already are going to be called the New World Order at this point if you're within the company, right? Like you don't know who the third guy is, but you know that they're going to be called the New World Order. That's kind of been probably bandied about, I'm sure. So that's why because he drops it a couple different times throughout the first hour. So, and it's very interesting to see, you know, if you go back and you watch like Game of Thrones, if you've watched it from the very beginning to the end, or, you know, a show that you've seen all the episodes, and you'll notice little hints and stuff that the writers will throw in because they know where the story's going and you don't. And you don't pick up on them and you don't remember everything. But it's just kind of a cool circular logic idea. So I thought that was kind of a cool thing to watch it and kind of pick up the idea that, hey, Zbyszko drops a New World Order on us July 1st.
Yeah, I really love how they did that a lot, and he did mention it several times, and I was hooked every time.
Right.
Just as I would be if I went back and watched Breaking Bad or Orange is the New Black, something of that nature. Another thing that gets mentioned during this opening segment is that they reveal to us that Eric Bischoff will return for hour number 2. I mean, he's been out for weeks. He had endured the injury from the Jackknife Powerbomb at the Great American Bash, so we get that little bit of news as well during this whole thing. And DDP is good, hot, and angry about his lost ring as well.
Yeah, his Battle Bull ring. They recount the baseball bat angle from the previous week's Nitro that we talked about at the end of the show last week. Really, really hot angle. Well done. We open the show with a return match, if you will, kind of. Steiners versus Harlem Heat, WCW tag team titles. These two teams will do battle for a while after this point. I thought it was a decent match. It was basically a backdrop to have Colonel Rob Parker re-debut. He shows up for Harlem Heat, gets involved in the match, knocks Rick Steiner off the top rope. That's how Harlem Heat gets the win. What did you think about the opener?
Not a bad match. We continue to stick with the tradition of having a tag to open it.
I think the Steiners or Harlem Heat have opened like almost every single Nitro up to this point.
When we get into the first match, like if you were to just like play each of our opening match segments of each of these At a Combined Weight podcasts we've done, they're sort of all the same. Like,
they really are very similar. I mean, you end up with
very
you've
consistent.
got Scott Steiner versus Booker T. You've got Rick Steiner versus Stevie Ray. You've got the Steiners versus Harlem Heat. you have the Steiners versus somebody. So, I mean, it's like you said, it's a very traditional kind of formula at this point to start the show with a decently good tag match or a tag team personnel match, if you will. You know, a singles match with tag team members involved.
Now somebody call personnel.
Yeah.
I think about that shit every now and then. So yeah, I liked how Colonel Parker utilized the cane to help get Harlem Heat the victory, not because of the angle itself, but because the spot looked kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't see the impact at all from cane to head or whatever body part of Rick Steiner it was that he hit him.
Right.
But because of the angle, I thought it looked awesome. It looked like he just leveled him with the thing. But the beauty of it was you couldn't see exactly where he hit him. Now here we have Harlem Heat has won the tag titles in a dirty heel fashion. They've now retained in dirty heel fashion. They need to start retaining them clean.
Yeah,
here for a
and
couple
I think
weeks.
They probably will, even though that they're going to be a backdrop behind the NWO angle from this point on, and pretty much everything will. I thought Booker T looked really good in this match. I've so long and recently have just kind of been beaten over the head with the idea of Booker T and King Booker and that era of Booker T, and then I almost forgot how much I really enjoyed his work in WCW. His kicks, the Mafia kick, Harlem side kick, they look so crisp and so clean. And he's such a big-ass dude in the fact that he moves so athletically. Like you almost think that he's kind of a waste in professional wrestling. The fact that he's such a big dude and he's so damn athletic that he could have made huge money in another sport.
Yeah, I wonder how much of an athletic background he has. I'm sure it's extensive. I mean, the guy is just unbelievable. And I wonder if Harlem Heat were to, say, debut today, they're however old they were then, and that's the age they are now, mid-30s or late 20s, whatever they are. I wonder if I would be able to identify, wow, one half of this tag team is so badass. He's going to go on to great things. I think as a kid, I would not have been able to maybe identify which one could maybe go on to a wonderful solo career. I think now being the fan I am, I could really pick out like, wow, this guy's incredible. He could go on to great things. Like, cause with the Wyatt family, I think like Bray Wyatt is the best out of those guys, but then formerly Brody Lee, now Luke Harper, like you look at him work and you go, that's somebody that could take off and have his own fine little solo career.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think as a smart fan, you are a little more cognizant of that, but I mean, you could clearly see that Booker T was the better of the two with Harlem Heat, I think.
As a kid, I couldn't. I don't know.
Could.
I don't know why, but
I always thought that Stevie Ray was not that good of a worker, and I guess it was because of my knowledge of the business up to this point. I mean, I'm a huge Bret Hart fan. Grew up loving the Hart Foundation. I never really liked Jim the Anvil Neidhart. I liked him because he was Bret Hart's tag team partner, but that big man style in that big man, little man combination tag team type deal, it was, to me, that's the way I viewed them. Booker T, if you watch Harlem Heat matches, he's the one that wrestles the most. And as a kid, that kind of just came to me. Well, Bret wrestled the most for the Hart Foundation. So that's the way that I equated it to it. And that's the reason why I really liked Harlem Heat, because of Booker T. I didn't really like Stevie Ray that much because I just kind of equated him to like a black Jim the Anvil Neidhart to Booker T's Bret Hart, I guess. I mean,
yeah,
and
I kind of equate Stevie Ray as the Marty Jannetty to Booker T, Shawn Michaels in a way, because I wonder. I wish the best for everybody that has entertained me throughout the years in this business. God bless him. I hope he's doing great. I just wonder what he's doing today, because if Booker T went on to this Hall of Fame career, 5-time world champion or what have you, it, makes me wonder. I hope Stevie Ray, makes me wonder what he's doing.
I'm sure he's fine. He's fine. Well, I mean, for that same token, look at the Steiners.
Yeah.
Rick drops off the map and becomes, I think he ended up doing some real estate, and I think he might have run for public office or something, and Scott becomes Big Papa Pump.
And is wrestling down at the Pelham Civic Center while Dad's drunk and putting on little kids' lucha masks and taking fireball shots over at the bar.
That's right.
I promise you, my dad and TJ were the only two guys ordering fireball shots at the Pelham Civic Complex that night.
Probably so.
Promise you.
Probably so.
I think I might have had myself one.
Up next, we've got Mean Gene talking to the Horsemen in Flair's VIP section. This segment was very kind of paint by numbers. Mean Gene goes down the back row and then the front row with his interview segment. He talks about the ladies. He goes from Deborah to Liz to Woman, and then he drops down, and then he goes from Arn to Benoit, and then he skips and goes to Mongo, and then he goes to Flair, and Flair's like, being Flair. I thought it was hilarious that he's in his robe and khaki pants. I loved it. Like, I'm not going to put my ring gear on. Fuck you guys. I'm staying in my khakis, but I'm wearing my robe, baby.
That's a funny touch. Only he could pull it off, too. And you know what else I've noticed? With every time we have a Mean Gene Horseman interview, Flair is always last, because why the hell? I don't care how good a promo cutter you are. Why would you want to follow that?
You wouldn't. And
you absolutely wouldn't.
It's always been like that, though, with the Horsemen. Flair was always the last because he's the guy.
Yeah.
Back in the day, you would go from Tully to Arn and then to Flair, because Flair's flailing around and elbow dropping his blazer and whatnot. I mean, he's going nuts.
Blade in his forehead, stripping down to his boxers, just going batshit. I love watching Flair promo. If you want to get me good and fired up, pull up, a Flair, promo. Anyway, such a shit show. Up next we get to, did you have anything else you wanted to add to all that?
You move on to the Glacier teaser.
Oh yeah, there was one. I didn't even make note of it this time. We just we get at least two of them during the course of Nitro at this point. We kind of see what he looks like, what he's gonna look like, good and looking very good in Mortal Kombat. Like, I don't think anything had changed promo wise, TV package wise between when we saw it the last couple weeks to now.
I'm curious to see when they drop off and stop, because he doesn't. They drop it and then he debuts. He kind of has a soft debut and then a big debut. Yeah,
and Ray Lloyd, who is the guy behind Glacier, friends with him on Facebook. I attended a seminar of his and whatnot. He posted a Throwback Thursday recently. It was one of these pictures of, like, somebody was kind of behind the scenes on the set of those promos, taking a picture, and there was so much, like, there was such production value to those, yet all you get is his footprints in snow and then, like, some aspects of his costume. There were some cool set pieces I'm kind of surprised they didn't utilize more of, but it's just an interesting little tidbit out there in a small world. The degrees of separation in this business are tiny.
All right, up next we had DDP versus Scotty Riggs. Pre-match, DDP's freaking out because he's lost his Battle Boy ring, shaking down everybody looking for it. Shows him messing with a guy in the back right before he gets on the ramp. And he's like checking the dude's pockets and whatnot. And then as Paige is coming to the ring, cuts to a pre-tape of your boy saying how he doesn't wear it. I don't wear no rings. I don't wear no earrings, necklaces. You pre-tape Hacksaw. Hacksaw is so cheesy, but I love him. You know?
I adore him, which is not new to you or anyone who listens.
Right.
But it's funny, man. I wonder, the guy behind Haps Hacksaw, Jim Duggan, I wonder how much thought he put into this character he created. I mean, sure, he put a good bit in, but he just kind of decided he would make him kind of dumb.
Yeah.
And that his dumbassery would be a part of his charm. See, some gimmicks, when it's stupid, it's just stupid.
Right.
With Hacksaw, it just makes him endearing and funny. And I think that's hard to do.
It's not so like,
he's
not that he's a dumbass. It seems like he's very stubborn, and endearing is a good word, I think.
Yeah.
It's like he's a gentle giant in a way. It's not like he's stupid and he's going to burn the house down when you leave him at home by himself.
Rub shit in his hair.
Yeah.
What's the we were talking about Sling Blade before this. What's the Sling Blade quote you and your dad know so succinctly?
Which one? Shit.
He's not one of these retards that's gonna rub shit in his hair. Is he?
Just how retarded are you, Carl?
Yeah, like Hacksaw's not. Oh, of course, but no, that's that character is a character that is endearing,
right?
But also slow. Like we have that in entertainment, in wrestling, TV,
right.
Film. That happens. It's well done, Duggan. You're an American hero in my eyes.
All right. The match is just okay. It was a little slow to get going. Scotty Riggs is a decent worker, but DDP pushing the Diamond Cutter. Post-match interview, DDP's really upset about his ring. Still looking for the ring. It'll come back later in the show. Up next, Greg the Hammer Valentine against Macho Man Randy Savage. Macho Man comes out with the war paint. Greg the Hammer Valentine, where the hell did he come from?
Really?
I hadn't seen him in 100 years. He comes out. The Hammer is 45 at this point in WCW. And Savage is old, and he's 44. And he's younger than the Hammer. And they had some great matches in early WWF in the 80s. But I never understood why, especially Greg Valentine, why he would work against other guys like Savage at that point in his career. I mean, have him work with some young guys if you're going to have him still working. And it was just kind of a whatever match, a throwaway. It was just somebody for Savage to wrestle and them to kind of push the third man angle and the idea that Savage is nuts. One thing that I wanted to point out I thought was really funny, and could you imagine how bad the angle flops on his face? When Greg the Hammer Valentine's walking in the ring, Schiavone talks about the third man. He's like, where's Greg Valentine been? Greg Valentine could be the third man. And could you imagine if Greg the Hammer Valentine comes down that aisle and everybody's like, Hall, Nash, and Greg fucking Valentine? You kidding me?
Yeah, the ironic part of all that would have been here's their match between Greg the Hammer Valentine and Macho Man, and it would be Macho Man that would receive the leg drop.
Right.
I don't know what Valentine's finisher is, but
it's a figure four, and
him coming down the aisle. What is Greg the Hammer Valentine do? Oh, well, they had a match last week, and he slaps the figure four on. He's the third man. Oh my God, this is disgusting.
That angle just falls flat on its face if that happens, for sure.
That's why it's important as shit.
It's funny, funny at the time to kind of look around and see who had been rumored as being the third guy. Originally, the idea was for it to be Hogan, and as you have talked about, Hogan kind of rebuffed the idea because he didn't want to turn heel, because he had built his brand for over a decade of the prayers and the vitamins.
Yeah, he told Bischoff something to the effect of, man, until you've walked a mile in these red and yellow boots.
So they go,
which makes sense.
And so there was talk about going to Sting, and then Hogan gets back into the angle, But, all across the internet, I made it a point when I was thinking about this, because I go on rabbit holes sometimes when I'm doing show prep and I'm watching this match and he says that. So I Google who do people think the third man was and trying to look at some archival data and that kind of stuff. And so I go back to the old lariats that Dave Scherer has on PW Insider, and just to see leading up to who the smart fans are saying it was. And, there was always that idea that the Ultimate Warrior might have been the third man and Bret Hart, because he was on his hiatus from WWF at the time after WrestleMania 12. Any of the names that I saw would have been great, I think, in this spot. And one was really interesting. So the main names that I saw were Roddy Piper, Bret Hart, Hulk Hogan, Sting and Luger, and Yokozuna.
Oh, man.
I think Yoko would have been a great addition, after, but I don't think he would have been a good third man.
It's hard to say. I love Yoko so much.
Because I think part of the early NWO was how charismatic those three guys were. I mean, I think Hogan's charisma, along with Hall and Nash's charisma and their coolness, got the gimmick over. I don't think you have a big fat Samoan that's pretending to be Japanese. I don't think that it gets over that much.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. He would have been a fine addition later on.
I think Bret Hart would have been a good deal. Sting and Luger, maybe. I think Piper, Bret Hart, and Hogan would have been my top three choices for the third man. Because Piper gives you that charisma, mic work, great. Bret Hart gives you that same idea that Hogan does, of tons of fans loving him, and he hasn't been a heel as a single star ever. And Bret Hart was a huge star and really, really hot in the WWF. So he would have been that same idea as Hall and Nash. He had just had the Iron Man match at WrestleMania, and he shows up, and that's huge. That would have made it. I think that would have been on the same level as Hogan, but Bret's not as charismatic on the mic as Hogan.
That would have been my problem with Bret Hart having been the third man. He isn't quite as good on the mic.
But
and the rest, I get it that he was this hot star in WWF, and he had not been a heel as a singles competitor. But God, I just don't know, man.
See, I think he became more charismatic when he turned heel and did the anti-American gimmick when they reunited the Hart Foundation. I thought his work as a heel was really, really good. I think he could have channeled that, but it still would have been less charismatic than Hogan. But we would have had way better matches at the top of the card with Bret as the third man.
And with Piper, you would have gotten a hell of a mic guy.
Yeah.
As that third man, but would you have a black and white checkered kilt?
Yeah, I don't know how you would have done it, but
I don't know how you would have. Yeah, how would you have packaged and sold that? Because how you're packaged and sold, and how you're booked is so important. And they did a brilliant job with Hogan's look, with the lightning bolts, the black and white, that suddenly he has a black beard along with his gold mustache Fu Manchu thing. That's that aspect of the character. You look at him as Hollywood Hogan, he's so much different than red and yellow Hogan. You would have had to have really packaged and sold these guys the correct way. But anyway, up next we had Bischoff cutting a promo on the Outsiders. Starts hour number 2. This is the first time we've seen Bischoff since he was powerbombed at the Great American Bash. Puts over Macho, Luger, Sting. He looks straight at the camera. These guys aren't afraid of you. I'm not afraid of you. Really well done as a little announcer guy with these guys that are gigantic. And Bischoff kind of draws a line in the sand here that he's very anti-Nash at this point. He's talking about
how he wants him to get beat up specifically more than Hall for sure.
This was very well done. I love how he was so appreciative of the pouring out and the show of support from the fans. It leads you even furthermore. It lets me further know that he was hospitalized from this jackknife powerbomb incident. Talks about added security, that kind of thing.
Right.
We're not afraid. Bring it on. We got folks.
Yeah, speaking of the outsiders, they show up almost immediately after this. Popcorn and drinks in hand.
And ticket stub.
You know, Bischoff is angry. Heenan is trying to leave the broadcast booth, as he often tries to do throughout the NWO angle, because he's afraid. But then they show their tickets. They're allowed to stay because they bought tickets. So I thought it was a good way for them to explain why they could stay.
Yes.
And, you know, this is a gimmick that we've seen overdone for years after this. But it was kind of that, it was that realism that explained why. Well, hell, they bought a ticket. You can't kick them out. So it wasn't that they were running through the arena with bats and how'd they get in. Well, you know how they got in and you know why they have to stay. So you know why they're there and all that. So it kind of legitimizes them in this situation. I thought it was well done.
Very well done. I liked the whole angle a lot. I also liked how, we see the outsiders get to their seats. They're flashing their ticket stubs. They have their popcorn and Coke. When they cut back to Bischoff and Heenan, they got 2 security guards right by them.
Right.
So well done. Always selling to the fans, especially the young folks who can buy this hook, line, and sinker like young Bobby here. Brilliantly done. Just getting 2 security guards right by them, because Heenan always sold about how afraid he was. He had seen what had been done to his broadcast partner.
Right.
Thought it was excellent.
Up next, you've got John Tenta versus the Giant for the WCW heavyweight title. Again, I never really bought John Tenta as a legitimate threat to win the heavyweight title. It was an okay match, about what you'd expect for 2 big dudes. Impressive to see John Tenta throw a drop kick.
That was my favorite part of the match.
and the Giant body slamming John Tenta as well. But yeah, the best part of the match was John Tenta's drop kick.
I loved how he went from, he got that second rope there and another pretty sweet spot, which was right before the drop kick, that I liked a lot as well. And I'm with you. I never considered or would consider John Tenta to be a serious threat to the world title at all.
Giant retains. Dungeon of Doom members show up, get involved in a match. They shave half of Tenta's beard to set up the Silver Dollar match at Bash of the Beach. Could you imagine John Tenta going to the store in between Nitro and Bash at the Beach with half of his damn face shaved off and half of his hair?
Dude, and this is a hot time of year, so you can't wear a fucking scarf.
Right.
You know, there are so few things that you can do about that at all. I find myself, I've actually imagined myself as, okay, if I got John Tenta's problem and I'm already large and I'm already not very handsome and half of my head's shaved and now half of my beard, I do find myself thinking about how I'd cover it up.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'd have a hat all the damn time.
I don't think, how would you? I think about that all the time, thinking about Enzo Amore in WWE going to get some food at Taco Bell or going to Winn-Dixie or Walmart and getting some food there. And he looks ridiculous. So post-match, after the John Tenta Giant match, post-match promo, all of the Dungeon of Doom is ramp side with Mean Gene. All the members are pushing the match for Bash of the Beach. I'm not a huge fan of Dungeon of Doom. I talked about this a lot on the show. I don't like Kevin Sullivan. So.
Well, I like them because I like you said the other day via text, you like your weirdos.
You do like your weirdo gimmicks.
I do. I like my dark, creepy, frightening, weirdo gimmicks. I can't help it. And Dungeon of Doom definitely falls into that vein. That being said, I wasn't a huge fan of this segment. I love how Mean Gene's are like, but you're not a barber by any means. Talking about Big Bubba.
Very true. Very true. Up next, you had the promotional video for Rey Mysterio Jr. Great stuff to push him. He became such a huge, huge character, a huge integral part of the Cruiserweight division. Interrupted by the Outsiders making their way toward the broadcast booth. They start heckling Bischoff about the Great American Bash. And funny to notice, Nash drops an F-bomb, and they left it in.
Yep.
And they left it in.
Did.
Security's all over him, and he's like, get the fuck off me.
There was a part of me that thought, am I just hearing things, or did he actually drop one right there?
Oh, yeah, he did. I don't remember hearing it as a kid, but you heard it plain as day there.
Yeah, you did, on TNT, straight up. If you're an older fan, like high school, college, you're like, wow. And if you did notice the F-bomb, you're going, dude, this is TNT. We got these guys taking over WCW. They're coming from WWF. And they're dropping F-bombs, and good God, this is a cool deal.
Right.
They
start being the cool heels.
That accident plays into their gimmick.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
The whole thing was well done. I thought having the Rey Mysterio video package interrupted was a beautiful touch. What a great excuse to have a pause in all the in-ring action. You don't interrupt a Mean Gene segment, which is what the first figurehead in the room of people trying to figure out how they're going to do this may throw out there. No, you have a video package that's actually cut short. I'm like enjoying that video package too.
Right.
Very brilliantly done, I thought.
And I thought they did a good job too with bringing out a lot of the locker room. You've got Luger, Macho, Steiners, Diamond Dallas Page, Dungeon of Doom, heels and faces alike assemble here.
Which is great.
So security separates them away from Nash and Hall. Nash starts chanting Attica via Al Pacino, Dog Day Afternoon, as they push him to the back. And that's where they'll be for the rest of the show.
Just before we move on from that, right before he started chanting Attica, I noticed how hot the crowd was specifically for Nash, but they're chanting Diesel, which we had seen.
But see, were they chanting? See, Bischoff says they're chanting Weasel.
See, I don't know. I think I'm hearing Diesel.
Yeah, see, I thought that too. I made a note of, were they chanting Diesel or were they chanting Weasel? I don't know why they would be chanting Weasel because he's not doing anything. But if they were chanting Diesel, what a good save by Bischoff to say, True. They're chanting for you, Weasel.
Oh, very, very, very good.
Because at this point, they're getting sued by WWF because of the fact that they say that, Nash and Hall are portraying their characters very similarly, etc. So it's either really great save by Bischoff, or why are they chanting for Bobby Heenan at this point? I think they're chanting Diesel as well. So
I do, and as a kid, I never considered ever pulling for the NWO until it became the weird, convoluted Wolfpack angle.
Right.
Which at that point they were baby faces. But seriously, watching this, if I'm in that crowd, old enough to buy a ticket, I'm chanting Diesel too. I'm all over I'm totally on the side of the Outsiders.
Right.
At this point. So anyway, all that was so well done. Enjoyed it a lot.
After this, we go backstage to Mean Gene. And he's with Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Hacksaw finds DDP's Battle Bowl ring in the men's room. And, of course, Hacksaw has this convoluted story about how he's in there to relieve himself and just, oversharing. And Hacksaw ends up hitting DDP with a tape fist to push their tape fist match at Bash of the Beach. Gives him back the ring. Mean Gene's loving it. So, just pushing the pay-per-view.
Funny stuff. Funny stuff. It was definite oversharing. What a good excuse to pull the tape out of your pants, wrap it around your hand, and bust DDP. DDP finally gets his ring back, only to get popped.
Yeah. Main event segment, Horseman versus the Rock and Roll Express, Joe Gomez and the Renegade. Love the Horseman shirt. I still wish I could find my old Horseman shirt that looked exactly like the ones that they were wearing. Love the shirt.
Yeah, I'm probably going to order it.
Decent back and forth match. They pushed how crazy Benoit was, young force to be reckoned with. Gomez, surprisingly enough, plays the Ricky Morton role in a match with Ricky Morton in it. He just gets killed most of the match, and then he makes the hot tag to Renegade. Match breaks down. Mongo hits Renegade with the briefcase. Renegade falls off the ropes. Horsemen win. About what you'd expect with the Horsemen against Joe Gomez, the Renegade, and Rock and Roll Express.
The blown Halliburton spot. Did you notice that?
How he threw it at him?
How he threw it. He was so supposed to hit him with that thing.
Yeah, it just kind of went out of his hand, maybe.
And Bobby Heenan was all like, "That's the best forward pass he's ever thrown in his career." Totally making the blown spot funny. That is classic Heenan to make fun of him like that.
Yeah,
it was pretty great.
Thinking on his feet. Well done.
And I was thinking during this match, and this is nothing new to our listeners. It's nothing new to you or I. But I just have to point out, I don't know if it's because of where Ric Flair is in his career or what, but there's so little offense from him in the ring ever. He's just getting ass kicked, just receiving ass whippings, occasionally like gouging the eyes, some punches, but only after they've been, distracted or subdued by the enforcer Arn Anderson, and then you'll get figure fours. Is that a byproduct of where he is in his career?
At this point, he doesn't really have a bunch of believable offense, or maybe he was just trying to sell. So, but he was in there a ton, and he always got the shit kicked out of him, and he did a good job of kind of begging off when he was facing a babyface, but I think it was kind of the transition to where he was in his career. Because he wins the world title again.
Yeah.
So, but that was later. But I think you're right. I think it was more of where he was in his career at that point.
And he's so good at selling the beatings that he receives, the Flair flip. He does that in every match, he's in. But that's just something I wanted to kind of point out / ask you, bring to your attention.
Right.
Because there is so little offense coming from him. Anyway.
Promo segment on the ramp with the Horsemen pushing Bash at the Beach, talking Benoit and Arn facing Kevin Sullivan, the Giant, basically just pushing all of their matches at Bash at the Beach, talking to the women. Mean Gene makes a little comment toward Woman, and Woman, of course, flirts with Gene like she always does in the Horseman promo segments. It was well done.
Yeah, I had a hard time. I'm going to be honest with you. Had a hard time paying attention to what the hell Ric Flair was saying, which is pretty much a first. I had a hard time paying attention to him over how hot Woman was.
Yeah, she's so good looking.
The angle, she's just like staring right into the camera, seducing whatever man will look into the television.
Yeah.
Just looking hot as hell. Yeah, specifically me 20 freaking years later. Jesus Christ. Nothing distracts me from a Flair promo.
Well,
that will.
That. Show closes with security trying to remove the outsiders. They're in the back, talking shit to the security guards, telling them to get a better paying job, throwing out lines about donuts, etc. Go home show for the Bash at the Beach. They're getting kicked out of the building, pushing the third man. It's still just them two. Who's the third man going to be? everybody's ready for the Bash at the Beach, man.
Including us, too. I know I'm ready.
I've already watched it once before, and I'll watch it again because it had been so long since I had seen the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing. I don't remember most of the show being good.
Really?
Yeah, I remember that being pretty much what they sold the entire show on, and it being just kind of a show.
I'll try to forget that you told me that and enjoy
Well, I mean, there's
it.
some decent stuff on there.
fair.
I mean, look at the matches. I mean, you got Flair and Conan for the U.S. title, Mongo versus Joe Gomez, Benoit and Arn versus Kevin Sullivan and the Giant,
Right.
Malenko against Disco Inferno, John Tenta and Big Bubba in the Silver Dollar match, DDP Hacksaw in the Tape Fist match, and then you've got the 6-man tag. Oh, and the dog collar match with Public Enemy and Nasty Boys. Rey Mysterio Psychosis, a good match.
Oh, my God. That'll be great.
That's your opener.
Okay. That's a hell of a way to open it up. That'll be cool.
Some of the pre-show matches would have been fun. Eddie Guerrero, Lord Steven Regal.
Okay.
But, yeah, Mysterio Psychosis, 15-minute slobber knocker.
That could very well be, from a technical standpoint, the best match of the night. I mean, of course.
Oh,
we'll
no, there's no doubt about it that that's the best match of the night. There is no doubt. You have any more musings about the July 1st, 1996 edition of Nitro?
Not quite. I like how the most controversial part of the night was seeing the Outsiders show up, and then we get their exit right there at the end. All very well done. That's pretty much all I got.
Yeah, I'm ready to move the angle forward, move the NWO angle forward, see who the third man is. Obviously, we know who it is, but to see who the third man is, see the fallout, and kind of relive that nostalgia of the time period and the addition of the NWO members each week, etc. That's going to do it for us today. Make sure you follow us on social media at A Combined Weight on Twitter, at acombinedweight@gmail.com. If you want to shoot us an email there. Go ahead and push your Twitter and Instagram and Tinder profile, Friendster,
The rest of
MySpace page.
I will sunshine pump every bit of it, sir. Being_large, Instagram and Twitter. You can shoot me a like on Facebook. Robert McElroy actor, I think is what it is there.
All right, that's going to do it for us today. Thanks for clicking the link that brought you here. You've been listening to At a Combined Weight. We'll see you later.